Rony is driving home from work, exhausted. Suddenly, a warning light flashes on his dashboard. His face drops immediately. He pulls over and calls a mechanic. The mechanic says the repair will cost at least $500. Rony stares at his phone, silent. James is at home, watching the evening news. The headline reads, 47% of Americans cannot cover a $500 emergency expense. James pauses and thinks deeply. James looks straight at the camera. He says, "This is not just a number. This is the reality of millions of hardworking Americans living one bill away from disaster." Rony opens his banking app. His checking account shows $312. He closes the app and sits quietly in his car, staring ahead. James sits at his kitchen table with a notepad. He says, "Rony earns $65,000 a year. That sounds like enough, so why does he have nothing left when it matters most?" Rony's wife Sarah is sorting through bills on the kitchen counter. Rent, groceries, daycare, utilities. Every envelope adds more pressure to her face. James stands in his living room explaining calmly. He says, "The problem is not always how much you earn. The problem is the gap between what comes in and what quietly goes out every month." Rony's monthly budget appears on screen. Income $5,400. Expenses $5,200. Only $200 remaining. Rony walks into his home and tells Sarah about the car repair. She goes quiet. They both sit at the dining table, not knowing what to do next. James says, "This is the exact moment where most American families make a decision that follows them for years. And most of the time, it is the wrong one." Rony calls his credit card company. His credit card limit is $2,000, but his balance is already $1,600. He has $400 available, still not enough. James walks slowly in his living room. He says, "When savings are zero, people turn to credit cards. But what happens when the credit card is already maxed out too?" Rony looks up Payday loan options on his phone. The interest rate shows 391% APR. His eyes go wide, but he feels he has no other choice. James sits down seriously. He says, "A payday loan for $500 sounds like a quick fix. But at 391% APR, that $500 becomes $575 in 2 weeks. And most people cannot pay even that." Rony takes the payday loan. He gets the $500, pays the mechanic, and drives home. He feels temporary relief, but the real problem has just started. 2 weeks pass. Rony gets his paycheck, but the payday loan payment of $575 is automatically deducted. Now he is $375 short for rent this month. James stands near his window, looking outside. He says this is called the debt spiral. One $500 emergency has now created a $375 rent shortage. The dominoes are falling. Rony calls his landlord asking for a few extra days for rent. The landlord agrees but charges a $75 late fee. Rony closes his eyes. James at his kitchen table again. He says, "Add it up." The original $500 emergency has now cost Rony $650 total, and his next month is already starting $375 behind. Marcus walks into the office break room, where Rony is sitting stressed. Marcus notices and asks what happened. Rony explains the whole situation quietly. Marcus listens carefully. He says, "I was in the exact same situation 3 years ago. Same salary, same stress. Then I made one change that fixed everything." Rony looks up curious. Marcus says, "I stopped thinking about savings as optional. I made it the first bill I paid every single month. Before rent, before groceries, before everything." James appears back on screen. He says, "What Marcus is describing is called paying yourself first, and it is the single most powerful habit in personal finance." James explains at his table. He says if Rony had saved just $85 per month for 6 months, he would have had $510 sitting ready. The entire emergency covered. 0 debt. Rony sits quietly thinking. He does the math on his phone calculator. $85 per month. He realizes he spends more than that on subscriptions he forgot he even had. James walks through his living room. He says, most Americans are not broke because they earn too little. They are broke because they have never built the habit of saving before spending. Screen shows Rony's subscription list. Netflix, Hulu, gym membership he never uses, 2 food delivery apps. Total, $127 per month going nowhere useful. James points at the screen. He says, $127 per month in unused subscriptions. That is $1,524 per year. That is 3 full emergency funds sitting invisible in Rony's budget right now. Rony cancels 2 subscriptions on his phone immediately. His face changes slightly. For the first time, he feels like he has some control. James stands confidently. He says, the emergency fund is not a luxury. It is the foundation. Without it, every unexpected expense becomes a financial crisis waiting to destroy your month. Sarah comes and sits next to Rony. They open a savings account together on the laptop. They set up an automatic transfer of $100 every payday. Small, but it is a start. James says the goal is 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. For Rony, that means $15,000 to $30,000 long term. But it starts with the very first $100 this week. Marcus meets Rony again in the office. Marcus shows his own emergency fund on his phone, $8,400, saved over 3 years. Rony is genuinely impressed and motivated. James at his table, he says Marcus did not get there overnight. He started with $50 per month, stayed consistent, increased it slowly as his expenses got leaner. Rony sits at his home desk making a proper budget for the first time. He writes down every expense. He finds $200 per month he can redirect towards savings starting immediately. James walks toward the camera slowly. He says the $500 emergency did not ruin Rony. It woke him up. And that is exactly what it needs to do for you watching this right now. Screen shows a simple comparison. Person with no emergency fund, $500 emergency costs, $650, plus stress, plus debt. Person with emergency fund, $500 emergency costs, $500. Done. No spiral. James stands firmly. He says, the difference between financial stability and financial chaos is not your salary. It is whether you have a buffer between you and life's surprises. Rony, 3 months later, he is back in his car. Another warning light comes on. He checks his phone. Savings account shows $900. He smiles and calls the mechanic calmly. James smiles, looking at camera. He says, "Ka, that right there is what financial peace feels like, not being rich, just being prepared. That is the real goal for every American family." James walks to his window. He says, "But let us talk about what happens when the emergency is bigger than a car repair. What if it is a medical bill, a job loss, or a broken furnace?" Screen shows 3 scenarios side by side. Medical emergency, $3,000. Sudden job loss, 2 months expenses, $10,800. Home repair, $2,500. James points at each one seriously. James says, without an emergency fund, each of these sends an average American family into serious debt, credit damage, and months of recovery. With one, they are manageable problems. Rony and Sarah sit together reviewing their 3-month progress. They have saved $900. Their goal chart shows them 9% of the way to their full 3-month emergency fund target. James at his table. He says, 9% sounds small, but 3 months ago, Rony had $312 in his account and $500 in panic. Progress is progress. Direction matters more than speed. Marcus stops by Rony's desk. He says, once your emergency fund is full, that same $100 per month goes straight to investing. That is when the real wealth building starts. James stands up energized. He says, Marcus just said something crucial. The emergency fund is not the destination. It is the launch pad. Once it is built, every dollar after that works for your future. Screen shows a simple 10-year projection. $200 per month invested in S&P 500 after emergency fund is full. At 10% average return, $38,000 in 10 years, from someone who had $312 3 months ago. James points at that number. He says, $38,000 from the same person who was panicking over $500. That is what fixing the foundation does to your entire financial life over time. Rony closes his laptop at night, satisfied. Sarah walks over, and they look at their savings app together. Small number, but they are smiling. It feels different now. James says seriously, here is what I need you to understand. The $500 emergency is not the villain of this story. The villain is the zero in the savings account before it happened. James walks slowly. He says most people wait for the perfect time to start saving. More salary, fewer bills, better circumstances. That perfect time never comes. You start now, or you stay stuck. Screen shows a step-by-step action plan. Step 1, list all subscriptions and cancel unused ones today. Step 2, open a separate savings account this week. Step 3, automate $50 minimum every payday. James points at each step clearly. He says, 3 steps. That is all it takes to begin. Not a financial degree, not a higher salary, not a perfect budget. Just these 3 steps this week. Rony at his office desk, focused and calm. Marcus waves at him walking past. Something has shifted in Rony. He looks like someone with a plan now, not someone waiting for disaster. James stands confidently near his window. He says, the Americans who build wealth are not the ones who earn the most. They are the ones who stopped letting small emergencies become big catastrophes. Screen shows the full journey recap. Month 1, $500 emergency panic payday loan. Month 4, $900 saved. Same emergency, zero panic. Same person, completely different outcome. James looks directly at camera, calm and firm. He says, your $500 emergency's coming. Maybe not today, maybe not this month, but it is coming. The only question is whether you will be ready. James takes one step closer to camera. He says, subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it today, and start your emergency fund this week. Because the best time to prepare was yesterday. The second best time is right now.
Hey, if this video gave you something to think about, that's exactly why I make these every single day. Most of this stuff nobody ever teaches you, and I just think that needs to change. So if you got value today, hit subscribe.